Hello everyone, it's Patrick here. In my previous video, I demonstrated a technique for extracting search results from Google Maps. Specifically, I showed how to scrape business names and href links. If you are interested in learning the exact steps and methodology I used, I suggest checking out the last video I uploaded. Today, I'm excited to share with you how to extract detailed information about a specific place on Google Maps. By doing so, you'll be able to gather valuable insights from various locations on the platform. When you navigate to the details page of a place, you'll discover a wealth of additional information. This includes the address, phone number, website URL, and much more. To accomplish this scraping task, I rely on a tool called ZeroWork Creator App. It is a robust web scraping and web automation tool that eliminates the need for coding and has proven to be quite effective. We are on Google Maps. As before, our initial step is to search for barbershops in Detroit. Once the search results appear, you can right-click on one of them, which will open a context menu. To open the selected result in a new tab, click on the option Open Link in New Tab. Now we find ourselves in a new window, also known as the details page of a location. On the left side, you will notice various contact information and details such as the address, phone number, website address, and other relevant information about the place or business. To scrape this information, we first need the CSS selectors. Therefore, we are attempting to create CSS selectors for each of these items. Before I begin, I would like to point out that you can find all the information about each CSS selector on the website I have linked in the description. Now, let's begin. Hover your mouse over the star rating, then right-click to open another context menu. From there, select Inspect. This will open the Dev Tools. Alternatively, you can use the shortcut Ctrl+Shift+J on Windows or Command+Shift+J on Mac to open the Dev Tools. The corresponding node will be highlighted in the DOM tree. In this node, I cannot find a distinctive tag or attribute that I can use to specifically target this selector. So, let's explore if there are any better alternatives higher up in the DOM tree. Firstly, I will check if there are any IDs, but upon initial inspection, I cannot identify any. Additionally, the class names appear to be weird and are likely to change over time. Therefore, it is advisable to avoid using them unless absolutely necessary. It is best to steer clear of these class names and search for more suitable options. Oh, I see that once again the same number appears below, but this time it is followed by the word stars appended to it. This shouldn't pose a problem as we can utilize this attribute and subsequently remove the word stars, retaining only the number. This can be easily achieved using a format data building block in ZeroWork. Let's attempt to employ this approach. Furthermore, we observe an attribute called ARIA label, which is usually a positive sign as it can be utilized for scraping purposes. Before we proceed with writing a custom selector, let's try copying this node and examine the CSS selector we obtain. To accomplish this, we right-click on this section, which opens a context menu. We then hover over Copy, and a small window pops up. From there, we select Copy Selector with a left click. Next, we press Ctrl+F to open the search field at the bottom. Then, using Ctrl+V, we paste the copied selector from the clipboard. However, upon inspection, we find that the generated CSS selector is not very useful due to its generic or obfuscated class names. It is not recommended to use these class names as they are highly likely to change in the future. Therefore, it is advisable to explore alternative options instead of relying on them. Let's try to create a custom selector. We'll start with the tag span and the attribute ARIA label. In this case, the attribute value is specific, such as some number and the word stars. However, since the number is dynamic and can vary, we'll omit it and focus only on the word stars. We can do that by using an asterisk before the equal sign of an attribute or class name. The asterisk is a wildcard, also known as a universal selector in CSS. This means it will select all elements within that portion of the DOM. By using this approach, we create a flexible selector that matches elements with different dynamic values as long as the word stars is present in the ARIA label attribute. Enter the following into the search field at the bottom of DevTools. Span, left square bracket, ARIA-label, asterisk, equals, single quote, stars, space, single quote, right square bracket. The node gets highlighted in the DOM tree. The Elements panel selects the first matching result in the DOM tree and rolls it into view in the viewport. By default, this happens as you type. That's all there is to it. Now we see a couple of matches, but since ZeroWork always chooses the first match, we should be fine. To highlight the string, use the keyboard shortcut Ctrl+A. Then copy it to the clipboard by pressing Ctrl+C. You can optionally use the console tab in the DevTools to verify the validity of the selector. This step allows you to evaluate and validate the selector if needed. Keep in mind that the Elements panel has some downsides compared to the console panel. In the Elements panel, all matched strings are included in the count. Additionally, the Elements panel only evaluates the selectors without validating them. If a locator is invalid, it will not return any results. It's up to you and your approach whether you want to always validate or occasionally skip this additional step. But in this case, I will show you how to validate the selector. Switch to the Console tab in the DevTools, type $, then an opening parenthesis and a closing parenthesis. Press the left arrow key once. Then type a quotation mark and press Ctrl+V to paste the text from the clipboard. Add another quotation mark. Press Enter. The CSS selector will be evaluated. The console execution results should be checked. If there are any matching elements, they will be returned as a list. Otherwise, if no elements are matched, an empty list will be displayed. Next, open a note-taking application where you can paste the selectors for later use in ZeroWork Creator App. We want to gather all the selectors before we use them in ZeroWork. Windows users can use Notepad by pressing the Windows key +R to open the Run dialog, typing Notepad, and hitting Enter. Mac users can use TextEdit as an alternative. There are also other text editing options available such as Microsoft Word, Google Docs, LibreOffice Writer, and more. Once Notepad is open, write rating on the first line to indicate the connection of the CSS selector. Then paste your selector into Notepad using Ctrl+V. Now you have your first CSS selector that you can work with later on. Let's navigate back to the Google Maps tab. The next CSS selector we need to obtain is for the reviews. When using DevTools, click on the Inspect icon to switch to Inspect mode. The icon will be highlighted in blue to indicate that the mode is active. Now, hover over the element you want to select, which in this case is the review number. Left-click on it, and its node will be highlighted in the DOM tree. We can observe that it is also identified by an ARIA label, which we can utilize as well. To reach the search field in DevTools, press Ctrl+F on your keyboard. We simply write span, left square bracket, ARIA-label, asterisk, equals, single quote, reviews, single quote, and right square bracket. On the right side, you will notice that there is only one match. This is advantageous because it indicates that we have a unique selector. If you want to check whether the selector is valid, you can do so in the Console tab, as I showed you before. We highlight the selector by using Ctrl+A and copy it to the clipboard with Ctrl+C. Now, go back to the previously opened Notepad application. Write Reviews on a new line to indicate the connection of the CSS selector. Then, paste your selector into Notepad using Ctrl+V. Go back to the Google Maps tab, click on the Inspect icon, hover over the rating category web element, left-click on it, the corresponding node will be highlighted in the DOM tree. Now, let's examine the HTML node more closely. It consists of an element with a distinctive class name and an attribute called JSAction. These elements could be used to create a custom selector. So let's start writing our own custom selector, beginning with the tag. Press Ctrl plus F to return to the search field at the bottom. Type button, left square bracket, JSAction, asterisk, equals, single quote, category, single quote, right square bracket. Highlight the selector by using Ctrl plus A and copy it to the clipboard with Ctrl plus C. Now, return to the Notepad application. Write rating category on a new line to indicate the connection of the CSS selector. Then, paste your selector into Notepad using Ctrl plus V. Go back to the Google Maps tab. Click on the Inspect icon. Hover over the address web element. Left-click on it and note that the corresponding node gets highlighted in the Dev Tools. We can see that there are strange class names, so I wouldn't use them if I don't have to. However, higher up in the DOM tree, I can see a tag, specifically a button tag. In my DevTools template, tags are displayed in red color. Many tags, although not all, use an opening tag and closing tag to enclose the content they modify. The button tag has an opening tag as seen here and a closing tag as seen here at the end. There is a class name, but it's obfuscated, so we should avoid using it. There is also an ARIA label attribute that we could use, or an attribute called data item ID with the value address that we could also use. Alternatively, we could use the attribute data tooltip with the value copy address. So let's construct our own custom selector starting with the tag button. Press Ctrl plus F to return to the search field at the bottom and type button, left square bracket, ARIA-label, asterisk, equal, single quote, address, colon, single quote, right square bracket. We could even use this class value, font body medium, if we wanted, but it's not really necessary. I will just add it for demonstration purposes only, so proceed with typing. Space, div, left square bracket, class, asterisk, equal, single quote, font, body, medium, single quote, right square bracket. Highlight the selector by using Ctrl plus A and copy it to the clipboard with Ctrl plus C. Now, return to the Notepad application. Write address on a new line to indicate the connection of the CSS selector. Then, paste your selector into Notepad using Ctrl plus V. Go back to the Google Maps tab. Click on the Inspect icon. Hover over the Status, Contact Info web element and left-click on it. The corresponding node will be highlighted in the DOM tree. Once you have selected a node in the DOM tree, you can navigate through it using your keyboard. Press the down arrow key several times. I can see there is an IMG tag, and I can see an attribute ARIA label with the value hours in this node, which we could use. Press Ctrl plus F to return to the search field at the bottom, and type IMG, left square bracket, ARIA label, asterisk, equals, single quote, hours, single quote, right square bracket. However, we actually want to grab the text in the div below. Simply add a space, tilde, and div to the selector. The tilde symbol in CSS is known as the general sibling combinator. It selects all sibling elements that follow a specified element. In this case, it selects all div elements that are siblings of the IMG element and appear after it in the HTML structure. It's important to note that the tilde combinator only selects elements that are on the same level or depth in the HTML structure. It does not select nested elements or elements that are higher up in the hierarchy. Highlight the selector by using Ctrl plus A and copy it to the clipboard with Ctrl plus C. Now, return to the Notepad application. Write status contact info on a new line to indicate the connection of the CSS selector. Then, paste your selector into Notepad using Ctrl plus V. Go back to the Google Maps tab. Click on the Inspect icon. hover over the website web element and left-click on it. The corresponding node will be highlighted in the DOM tree. Once you have selected a node in the DOM tree, you can navigate through it using your keyboard. Press the up arrow key several times until you reach the node with an A tag. The A tag is responsible for defining hyperlinks, which allow for linking from one web page to another. The most crucial attribute of the HTML element is the href attribute, which specifies the destination of the link. In addition to the A tag, there is also an area label attribute that could be used, or an attribute called data item ID, with a value of authority that could also be utilized. Press Ctrl+F to return to the search field at the bottom and type A, left square bracket, data, hyphen, item, hyphen, ID, equals, single quote, authority, single quote, right square bracket. On the right side, you will see that there is just one match. This is advantageous because it confirms that we have a unique selector. Highlight the selector by using Ctrl+A and copy it to the clipboard with Ctrl+C. Now, return to the Notepad application. Write website URL on a new line to indicate the connection of the CSS selector. Then, paste your selector into Notepad using Ctrl+V. Go back to the Google Maps tab. Click on the Inspect icon. Hover over the phone number web element and left-click on it. The corresponding node will be highlighted in the DOM tree. Once you have selected a node in the DOM tree, you can navigate through it using your keyboard. Press the up arrow key several times until you reach the node with a button tag. In the same node as the button tag, there are multiple attributes. Given the quirkiness of the class names, it is advisable not to use them. Another attribute present is called area label, which contains the value phone : and so on. Additionally, there is another attribute called data item ID that we could potentially utilize. However, let's focus our attention on the data item ID attribute for now. Press Ctrl+F to return to the search field at the bottom and type button, left square bracket, data item ID, asterisk, equals, single quote, phone, : single quote, right square bracket. On the right side, you will see that there is just one match. This is advantageous because it confirms that we have a unique selector. Highlight the selector by using Ctrl+A and copy it to the clipboard with Ctrl+C. Now, return to the Notepad application. Write phone number on a new line to indicate the connection of the CSS selector. Then paste your selector into Notepad using Ctrl+V. Go back to the Google Maps tab, click on the Inspect icon, hover over the +code web element and left-click on it. The corresponding node will be highlighted in the DOM tree. Once you have selected a node in the DOM tree, you can navigate through it using your keyboard. Press the up arrow key several times until you reach the node with a button tag. In the same node as the button tag, there are multiple attributes. Given the quirkiness of the class names, it is advisable not to use them. Another attribute present is called area label, which contains the value +code : and so on. Additionally, there is another attribute called data tooltip that we could potentially utilize. Press Ctrl+F to return to the search field at the bottom and type button, left square bracket, aria hyphen label, asterisk, equals, single quote, +code : single quote, right square bracket, left square bracket, data hyphen tooltip equals, single quote, copy +code, single quote, right square bracket. On the right side, you will see that there is just one match. This is advantageous because it confirms that we have a unique selector. If you wish to verify the validity of the selector, you can do so in the Console tab, as I previously demonstrated. Highlight the selector by using Ctrl+A and copy it to the clipboard with Ctrl+C. Now, return to the Notepad application, write +code on a new line to indicate the connection of the CSS selector. Then, paste your selector into Notepad using Ctrl+V. Go back to the Google Maps tab. Click on the Inspect icon. Hover over the Claim This Business web element and left-click on it. The corresponding node will be highlighted in the DOM tree. Once you have selected a node in the DOM tree, you can navigate through it using your keyboard. Press the up arrow key multiple times until you come across the node containing an AHTML tag, also known as an anchor element. In the same node as the A tag, there are multiple attributes. Given the quirkiness of the class names, it is advisable not to use them. However, there are two other attributes worth noting. The first attribute, ARIA label, contains the value Claim This Business. The second attribute, data item ID, could potentially be utilized. Press Ctrl+F to return to the search field at the bottom and type A left square bracket ARIA hyphen label right square bracket left square bracket data hyphen item hyphen ID equals single quote merchant single quote right square bracket. Highlight the selector by using Ctrl+A and copy it to the clipboard with Ctrl+C. Now, return to the Notepad application. Write Claim This Business on a new line to indicate the connection of the CSS selector. Then, paste your selector into Notepad using Ctrl+V. Log into the ZeroWork Creator App and you will be directed to the dashboard of ZeroWork. For those of you who watched the previous video, you may recall the workflow we created for the Google Maps scraper. Let's open this workflow by clicking on the taskbot in the list. This is the initial part of our workflow that we can also use for our advanced scraper. Alternatively, we can skip this section and only utilize the data table from the workflow containing the scraped business name and href links. Let's now assume that instead of creating two taskbots, we want to create just one combined taskbot. For this purpose, I will now open the already completed taskbot and show you how the entire workflow looks. I will not give you a step-by-step guide here, but I will only point out some things that need to be done. For example, the existing data table needs to be supplemented or replaced. Since I have already done this in advance, I will briefly demonstrate it for you and then delete the additional data table later. Ultimately, the goal is to map all the desired categories you want to scrape in the data table and then link them with the respective building blocks. Since additional categories have been added, you can now open the data table and insert additional columns by clicking on the Create New Column button, or, more likely, easier and more practical, by inserting a new data table. You can do this by clicking on the plus icon next to the Data Tables menu on the left and selecting Create a New Data Table from the drop-down menu. In the first field, please provide a title for the data table. For instance, let's name it Google Maps Details Page. However, you have the freedom to choose any name you prefer. Afterward, proceed to the drop-down menu and select the desired data table type. Click on Import Data from CSV to proceed. The .csv file simply contains the column headers. Click on Upload CSV and choose the .csv file that you have prepared beforehand. Click on the button Create Data Table. Now we have the data table with the desired column headers. If you want to make any adjustments, you can do so now. Please remember that we have added a new data table, so you need to update the existing part of the workflow as well. Click on the Save Web Element building block. In the section labeled Save To, ensure that it is mapped to the correct data table. Do the same with the second Save Web element. Useful tip. Click on the Auto Align button to align your workflow either from top to bottom or from left to right. Now that we have prepared our data table, it's time to look at the structure of the workflow. We have our main loop. The loop starts right after the Start Repeat building block and ends with two Save Web Elements building blocks. There is a nested loop that begins right after the After Repeat building block. It contains all the steps necessary for scraping information on the details page of Google Maps. The Start Repeat building block iterates over rows of a data table. Ensure that you choose Dynamic as the loop type and ensure that it is mapped to the correct data table. It continues with the open link building block. You can add parameter references to your building block using the input field. In this case, hover over the data table reference icon and click on it. A small window will pop up. Choose the data table you want to refer to and select the corresponding column. In this case, choose the column href. This means that it will iterate over the href links we scraped in our main loop. After the open link building block, all the save web elements and format data building blocks are appended. The order of the save web elements building blocks does not really matter, but we start with the rating. In the Enter Selector field, we copy our custom CSS selector. You might remember that all the CSS selectors we gathered are in our notepad. Save it as a custom attribute and fill in the attribute name, type, ARIA label. Save it to the corresponding data table. Select the column labeled Rating. Click the Save button. We proceed with the building block Format Data. As you might remember, our scraped data contains a number and the word stars. We just want the number, so we select the Format action. Remove words and enter the word stars. Select the corresponding data table and the column Rating as before. Click the Save button. Continue with the next Save Web Element building block. The next item we targeted was the Reviews. I won't give you more detailed instructions, but I'll simply show you the individual building blocks one after another. This way, you can at least see how I solved it in case you get stuck somewhere and can't make progress. Before I start the taskbot, let's take a look at the data table. You will now see the end result that we will obtain once the taskbot has completed its work. We can see the business names, the href links, the ratings, reviews, rating categories, addresses, status and contact info, website, URLs, phone numbers, and more. Let's go back to the Google Maps browser tab. There is one more thing left to do before we start the taskbot. Make sure to add your cookies using the Edit This Cookie browser extension. To do this, click on the Edit This Cookie icon. A pop-up window will appear, then click on the Export tab. The cookies will be copied to the clipboard. Now, let's return to the ZeroWork Creator browser tab. Click on the Settings icon located in the upper right corner. Click inside the Empty Cookies field and press Ctrl+V to paste the cookies from the clipboard. Close the settings window by clicking on the X button in the upper right corner. The window will close and the cookies will be saved. Make sure all the building blocks are connected. Now, we can initiate the taskbot by clicking on the green play button. The taskbot will start and scrape the selectors we have chosen. In the end, we will obtain a data table with the desired information. Congratulations on successfully creating a Google Maps scraper. For more detailed information, please refer to the description. I hope you enjoyed following along with the video and hopefully you learned something new. Until next time, take care and see you soon.